was like ready to go. Oh shit, here we go. It's going down early in New Jersey. But of course it didn't. But I do want to talk about what Dustin Poirier was saying. I think Dustin Poirier is trying to set a trap for Islam Makhachev by constantly accusing him, hey, listen, you're going to be diving for my legs. You're going to be laying and praying. What Dustin is doing is using all of that experience that he had to try and play with the ego of Islam Makhachev, to try and get him to not shoot for the takedown, to try and get him to stand, to try and get him mad. When you're talking shit, when you're at the press conference, when you're doing interviews, it's psychological warfare. Yes, you're trying to get them rattled. You're trying to get them off their game plan. You're trying to get them emotional. You're trying to get them mad. And if they get mad, then they don't necessarily follow the game plan. And let's remember, last time we saw Islam, he knocked out Alexander Volkanovski, hit that beautiful head kick. The striker has improved leaps and bounds, certainly from when he fought Adriano Martins, of course, the only loss on the record. Islam Makhachev is the real deal. An absolutely 100% well-rounded mixed martial artist who started off as a wrestler, and now the rest of the skills have got very good. Of course, the dominant wrestling is still the number one factor, and that's the biggest threat to Dustin Poirier. If he gets taken down, if he gets controlled, if he gets submitted, of course, he'll never fight for the championship again, and his title aspirations will go up in smoke, and he will probably retire.
Dustin is not talking about retirement. Dustin is not done after this fight. He was talking about loosening the reins a little bit. Maybe give it a look at 170 pounds, if that's what it took to find parity, to have the big matches. The Nate Diaz, the Colby Covington, the Conor McGregor for the 100th time. That's not the road that he's gonna go down, but I'm making that point. That's all that he's talking about. As so, he's talking about taking it day by day and fight by fight, which is a very realistic thing that you have to do at a point in your career, as opposed to looking at that mountain, understanding it's one step at a time. There's 3-4 guys I'm gonna have to beat along the way. A lot of hotels, a lot of sacrifice. I'm just sharing. Saying I'm not going to attempt to become a number one contender again at 155 pounds is not at all saying he's going to retire with a loss. I just want to make sure that that's clear, because after he made that statement, the line at DraftKings moved. It moved because history says a guy can't be halfway in. And that line was misinterpreted. Dustin is a fun and a soft-spoken, but coming out and speaking and getting his message across to the media, it's not the world's strongest point by him. And he is not talking about desperation. He's talking about looking at this fight.
Fight fans, welcome back to Luxurytainment. In this video, we'll take a closer look on why Islam Makhachev beats Dustin Poirier at the UFC 302 in superb fashion. Islam Makhachev headlines the pay-per-view event by defending his title against the fan favorite Dustin Poirier. Since entering the UFC in 2015, Islam Makhachev has been nothing but dominant inside the octagon, other than one knockout loss in only his second UFC appearance. This one knockout loss, nearly 9 years ago, seems to have fans thinking Dustin Poirier will pull off the impossible and finally become a world champion, but that is simply untrue. Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier is not the newest installment of the Rocky series or a WWE match where the fan favorite comes out on top of the biggest stage. This is a real, unscripted fight where all the signs point to a victory for Makhachev. Makhachev has been incredibly dominant since his debut, but what is even more impressive are his recent improvements. When Makhachev came into the UFC, and even up until recently, he was almost exclusively a wrestler, but as of late, his striking abilities have greatly improved. In his win over Charles Oliveira to achieve championship status, he knocked down the former champion before submitting him with ease in the second round. Along with that, in his most recent fight with Alexander Volkanovski in October, he finished the former featherweight champion in the first round via a perfectly timed head kick knockout, proving he is not a one-dimensional fighter. The most trouble that Makhachev has ever been in during his run to the top was in his first fight with Volkanovski. But despite some struggles, Makhachev showed why he is the best in the world as per his elite fight IQ. During Volkanovski's fight, when Islam Makhachev was in trouble on the feet, he found ways to get the fighters to the ground, which shows me he has no plans to engage in a dangerous situation with Dustin Poirier. It is understandable why UFC fans are entertaining the idea of a Dustin Poirier win. He's coming off a highlight reel finish win over Benoit Saint Denis in his last fight. But honestly, I took more negatives away from that fight for Poirier than positives. He already proved what he's proved in the past. He has great boxing and is capable of knocking anyone out, but nothing new. What he did show were some clear flaws in his game, most importantly in his fight IQ. The only real success that Poirier could find in his fight with Saint Denis was on the feet, but anytime the fight got into a clinch situation, instead of trying to break it and return to striking, he pulled guard by trying to lock up a guillotine against an opponent who was regarded as a better striker than himself. This illogical tactic by Poirier leads me to believe his strategy against Makhachev won't be much better. To further support that, throughout the lead up to this fight, Poirier has been very emotionally driven, especially with talks of a potential retirement after the fight, win or lose. He has also openly stated that he plans to attempt a guillotine choke against Makhachev and would even get a statue made if he were to win via that choke. These statements made by Poirier and his poor fight IQ in his last fight make me confident that he will not be in the right mindset to compete against someone as good as Makhachev. Poirier also apologized to Islam's camp after the face-off due to the shenanigans with the mother F word, which was used and got Islam furious. Dustin Poirier comes into the clash off the back of a sensational knockout win over Benoit Saint Denis in March. The American, who looked tired, was on the jaws of suffering yet another defeat against the rising contender. However, his experience shone through, and a huge left hook marked the beginning of the end. A beautiful right hook soon after sent the Frenchman to the floor, forcing the referee to wave off the fight in the second round. As for Makhachev, he secured an epic knockout victory against Volkanovski at UFC 294 back in October in his last fight, and has recently shown off his incredible power to MMA fans ahead of the clash with the Diamond. While a few have tipped Poirier to strike gold in what almost certainly to be a last crack at the UFC gold, I believe that the Russian Islam will be too much for the Diamond. The bookies are right to have Makhachev as the favorite because he's that good of a fighter. Volkanovski also spoke to Luxurytainment and believes that his former opponents will get the job done tonight and successfully defend his lightweight title for the third time. Islam's going to be too good. I think he's too safe of a fighter to make mistakes where he's going to get caught against someone like Dustin Poirier. I don't see anyone beating Islam for a while unless they catch him. I think once he grabs a hold of Dustin, Dustin's going to be in trouble. Yeah, the guillotines might be there, but think of the amount of times people have tried to put Islam in a guillotine. I guarantee he's done hours and hours of defense. I don't see that being pulled off. I like Dustin Poirier, and I've got a good relationship with him throughout the years at Luxurytainment, but I'm just trying to be realistic here. I think he plays it safe on the feet, and Islam gets the submission finish. Despite predicting Makhachev gets the job done tonight, Poirier has a major advantage in terms of the fighting stances. Southpaw versus Southpaw. And here are some little problems for Islam. With Volkanovski and Islam, there was times where Volkanovski would come in aggressively, and his timing for the takedown was very good. He'd always dip his head to the side away from his power side and shoot in. Now doing that with a Southpaw fighter, now you're dipping to the power side of Poirier. Power side uppercuts, power side kicks, power side knees. These are going to be a little problems for Islam. Poirier has raw knockout power, and if you can wobble Islam and force him to the shoot for a takedown, that leave an opening for the challenger to counter and cause some issues. I wouldn't say panic shoots, but instinct reaction to shoot. If he chooses to shoot a takedown, is he running into something in that power side? That being said, Islam's a very calculated fighter, and he's going to have different options ready at hand. Our prediction for this fight is a second round arm triangle choke win for Islam Makhachev. In round 1, I see Makhachev taking his time and finding an opening for a takedown attempt that Poirier will most likely try a guillotine on, that Makhachev should have no problem defending. Lastly, to add and conclude, with a full gas tank, I would assume that Poirier could avoid being submitted. After a full round of control for Makhachev, it should be easier for Makhachev to get the fight to the ground and find mount easily. This will allow him to find the arm triangle choke and retain his title and pound for pound #1 status. So guys, who do you have winning in tonight's fights? Please like, subscribe and comment below on who you have winning in this epic showdown tonight. Have a great day.
To see next when you step into the office. Everybody, I come in for everybody, kill everybody.
This guy really tough. If you want to stop him, you have to choke him or knock him out. This guy gonna fight 5 rounds.
potential #1 contender, Islam Makhachev. That is the fight that needs to happen.
Yeah, because I know Dustin it's not deserve the title fight, but we don't have any option right now. Everybody busy, but I want to fight, you know. I want to fight 3 times in the year. That's why I just have to call someone. And Poirier is free now, and he showed like excellent performance and scored a beautiful knockout. That's why he's free now. He's healthy. I asked him to fight.
I mean, he's had one of the quickest ride, the absolute quickest to 2 titles.
I've never seen anything like that.
Nothing ever been like that.
No, never in my life.
The thing is, man, like if the dude really can just survive under everybody if he gets taken down and then just beats your legs up, like
He had surgery after his last fight. Just how compromised going to be either from injury.
I ready for anyone.
This guy's got it. He's got it, dude.
Daniel Cormier labeled you as the lightweight that no one wants to fight.
I have 10 fight win streak, 11 months. I finished 4 guys.
The fact that you're now finishing guys, right? That's taking it to another level.